Good morning, idea students. What's up, guys? So as you can see, we are moving on to day 4. Congratulations! This is our second week of working on our prep. Right. So good job. I just want to congratulate each and every one of you that have been putting in the hard work. Y'all guys are doing amazing. So once again, here we go. Our quote for the day is going to be: the best way to get something done is to begin. Um, I specifically use that one because I have had quite a plethora of students reaching out to me um, that had been pretty much MIA for a while. So I know a lot of you were working both on Bright Thinker. Some of you have been doing the packets. So just keep in mind, this is what we're going to do. This is the norm. So packets is what we're going to be working on, this packet specifically, so we can hopefully master the content. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. So today we are on week 4, day 4 of 7.7a, which is setting up and solving and interpreting equations, right? And more specifically, linear equations, right? So our first question of the day happens to be that Kate's sister's age, y, in relationship to Kate's age, x, can be represented by the equation y equals x plus 8. Which of the following graphs best represents the situation? So, as y'all know, the expectation when solving any type of problem during this online is going to be that you have to use your steps. So I need to see your steps. I've given you a grace period of 2 weeks. From now on, if I do not see steps, and if you're asking me for help, first I'm going to ask you, what have you done? Second, I'm going to tell you, what are your steps? If there's no steps and you haven't even tried, I'm not even going to reply. You guys need to be putting in the work ethic and showing me that you actually are trying to learn, okay? So our first step for number 1 is obviously going to always be to determine our coefficient. So in this case, they give you the equation. So our coefficient obviously is 1. So whenever you have a blank space next to a variable, the number has always been 1, right? We had discussed that in class. So now that we know our coefficient, we know that right next to it, we're always going to find our variable, right? So for our variable here, we see that our variable is going to be x, right? And more specifically, the x represents Kate's age. So whatever her age is, if we add 8, we can get her sister's age, right? So obviously Kate's sister is 8 years older. The only problem is the reason we have an equation, you may ask, is why do we have it? Well, it's because we don't know how old Kate is, right? So we have to create a scenario where we can try and guess how old she is. And this equation helps us to do that. So number 3 says to determine our constant. Well, we already said it. Our constant's 8. So Kate is obviously older, or Kate's sister is older by 8 years. How old? We don't know. But that's what this graph is going to help us to understand and depict. So our constant is 8. As always, construct the equation. Lucky for us, they give us the equation, right? So our equation, of course, is y equals x plus 8. Now, this should be one of the easiest questions. Reason being, if we look at the graphs themselves, we need to know how to interpret a graph utilizing an equation. So obviously, because our coefficient, in this case the number 1, is positive, then the graph has to increase from left to right, right? So it has to go from lower in the graph to the top. So all of them are positive. This is called a positivity graph, right? So it's positive. The second thing is we have to know that increasing by 1, right? Because our slope is 1. It's 1 over 1. It goes up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. If you understand that concept, it makes it easier as well. So we can notice that in F, it goes up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. Excuse me. H, on the other hand, goes up 1, right 5. So that could not be it. So even if you were like, I have no idea which one it is, it's too blurry, just looking at the lines and seeing the slope, the rise over run, right? Rise over run is slope for a graph. We can notice that h cannot be a possibility. If we look at g, to get from one x value to the next, it goes up 3, right 1. So that's going to have a slope of 3. G can't be it. If we look at j, it goes up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. Okay, so this one, so both f and j are a possibility, right? So we already know that h and g are nowhere close to it, right? So without even solving it, we can already knock out h and g. Our last step is always going to be to create a table. In this context, if you know what your constant means, then you only need to know one value in your table. And that's when x equals 0. Why? Because, or why isn't the reason? The reason is that when x equals 0, that's going to be your constant. That is also known as your y-intercept, meaning that's when your line is going to cross the vertical line called your y-axis. So it has to cross it specifically at the value of 8. So when x is 0, right, when x is 0, the y value has to be positive 8. So if we're debating between f and j, notice how f has it at positive 8 and j has it at negative 8. Obviously our answer is f, right? So multiple ways. Once you get used to looking at graphs and understanding what they're trying to say, honestly, this is like a straightforward, take you about 5-10 seconds type of question. I look at it, it has to be rise over run of 1, because that's my slope, and it has to start at 8. So if I look at f, it starts at 8. That's my first check mark. Second thing is 1 over 1. So up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. Yes, that's right. Okay, so f is the perfect answer. I would go to h really quick. It doesn't start at 8, cross it out. I go to g, doesn't start at 8, I cross it out. And I would go to j, and I notice it starts at negative 8, not the answer, so really quick, my answer would have been f. So, as I say, you need to put in the time not only to do the work, but to understand what we're doing. Okay, so we'll move on to number 2. Number 2 states that Andy mows lawns to earn money while going to school. He charges $12 an hour plus an additional $8 to edge the sidewalks. Which equation represents the total amount Andy charges to mow and edge a lawn? Okay, so once again, our steps always stay the same. So first step is to determine our coefficient. We are given the information of $12 an hour and $8 to edge, right? So we already know that our coefficient has to be the 12. Why? Because that's the one that has the word per. That's the one that is going to be next to our variable, right? So obviously in this context, if we look at our answer choices, our variable is going to be the x, right? And more specifically, that variable x means hours, okay? So x stands for hours. So it's $12 times the number of hours plus our constant, so the number that never changes. It's our phi, it's our starting point, it's our y-intercept, all of that means the same. And that's obviously going to be the $8, right? So he just charges a flat fee to edge the sidewalk. Okay, so of course, we have to make our equation, and we utilize the standard form, which is y equals mx plus b, m standing for slope, x standing for the variable, and b being the constant. So in this case, it's just a plug and chug type of question, meaning I literally just put it together. So I'm going to have y equals 12x plus 8, and I look for my answer choices. Okay, so I look at A has the 8 as the coefficient. We already know that that's my constant, my flat phi, so 12 and 8 are flipped, so A is wrong. If we look at B, it says 12x minus 8. Okay, so if I'm doing a job, there is no way I'm going to be in minus. I'm not giving money to anybody, right? So that cannot be the answer. We're not going to lose $8. letter C says 12x plus 8. Well, that looks exactly like what we just solved. So more than likely that's our answer. Who knows? And the last one says that 8x minus 12. Like we said before, I'm not giving money back when I'm working. I don't think you should either. I don't think this person is either. So Andy is obviously going to utilize the equation y equals 12x plus 8. So that's our answer. So as you can notice, if you've been putting in the time, these questions should be a little easier to solve. Hopefully we're there. It's going to take a while, but we can get there. I know we can. I believe in y'all. So, of course, the last thing we're going to do is I need you to fill out and complete questions 3, 4, and 5. Of course, show me your work. And then just send it to me any way you can. If you have any questions, reach out to me. And I bid you farewell. I miss each and every one of you. This is Morales signing out. Love you guys. Bye.